most people I tell this to, they just think you're nuts.
Hello, everyone. Today is a very special episode of the podcast and a very unique one as well. I found Erica Arndts, right? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Arndts?
You got it. You got it. Good job.
I saw Erica's story on Dr. Anthony Chaffee's story. He posted it, and Erica's basically talking about how meat is amazing, the carnivore diet is helping her. And I go look at her profile, and it's just the coolest feed of art that I've ever seen. It's full of murals and paintings and graphic design and all these just awesome things that she's traveling around and creating. And I just thought, this person looks awesome. Let's just jump on a podcast and see what happens. I know literally nothing about you other than your bio. So, Erica, why don't you give us just a little bit of a background on who you are, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on here. I was really surprised when he reached out. Like, you want to have me on your podcast? Sure. Okay. Um, I'm Erica. I'm an artist. I'm from Ohio originally. I move around a lot. I have a black lab named George. We travel around together, and I've been a painter, artist pretty much my whole life. I got stuck into the 9-to-5 corporate life briefly, went to college, got into all of that coercion, wasted a lot of money, but I learned a lot. So everything, I feel like there's always meaning in everything that we do, the lessons we learn, the things that we have to pay for. And thankfully now I've been to a point where I can just live off of my art, and I've been doing that for about the last 10 years. So I just travel, paint murals. Right now I'm trying to beef up my canvas collection because as much as I love painting murals, they are extremely physically demanding. And so I want to find the right balance doing mural work and the canvas work. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
That is so awesome. So you've been living off of your art for 10 years now. That is extremely cool because I feel like there are so many other artists out there from all different artistic niches that are just dreaming of that day where they can support themselves
Yeah.
and be able to just do what they love and make money doing that. It's a grind to get there. So what would you say were the biggest things that you learned to be able to get to that point where you could just do this full time?
As I hated my job. I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel. It was more like, there's no way. This is not my purpose on this planet, to just pay off my student loan debt in a job that I hate. I was making really great money, but it was all going to student loans, and I hated it. And it was just like, what am I living for if this is what I'm doing? This is terrible. So I always fell back on art. I did it for fun. I just did it as a hobby. And I thought I could just sell my work, but I was working 9 to 5. So I became so disciplined and motivated. I would wake up at 5 in the morning and paint in the morning before I went to work. After work, come home, paint. And then I could create more paintings. And that's when Instagram came out, which has been an incredible tool. It's a double-edged sword, but it's a great tool when used correctly, I feel like. So that was the very beginning of Instagram. I was sharing all of my work, and then people were buying it. Because before then, it was, you have to knock on doors to try and get into a gallery, which still to this day is like impossible. It's a challenging market to get into in the gallery world, but no shade to the galleries. They're wonderful, and they keep our art alive still. And so I just grinded it out in the mornings and at night. And eventually I was selling enough to quit my really cushy paying job. So I quit the job, and I got a job waiting tables as a buffer. And I thought, I'm going to be able to build my own schedule, work whenever I want. I can paint all morning, all afternoon, wait tables at night, and then I have the best of all worlds. I have some cash coming in. I don't have to totally rely on the artwork. So that was a nice little segue to get into doing the art full time. But when I was painting, or when I was working at this restaurant, it's this really nice place called Park Tavern in Atlanta. It's this really cool, it's like a music venue slash restaurant right in the middle of this cool park. And they have live music every Sunday. And the owners approached me saying, hey, why don't we build you a stage and you can paint live while the bands are playing, and we'll put a strobe light on you. It'll be really cool. I'm like, yes, absolutely. That would be amazing.
This
So
is in
then that,
Ohio, right? Did I see that you're from Ohio?
yeah, from Ohio.
Okay,
Um,
cool. I've heard Ohio is actually low-key amazing. I've met people from there and they say that like the cities are super cool. So I can see that
yeah,
happening for sure.
yeah. It's a cool place. I knew as a kid I never wanted to stay there. I just had such big dreams of just going on adventures. So I moved to California and I did fashion design. I was a fashion designer in LA for like 3.5 years. And then I moved to Atlanta and I was in Atlanta for like 10 years. But I started doing the live painting at this restaurant, and then I was selling even more. And then I had to tell the restaurant, hey, I can't work here anymore because I'm making enough painting. It's going to hurt my painting business if I keep taking shifts here. So I had to kind of walk away from that. Um, and I did a little bit of house painting in between there. I worked with this amazing friend of mine. She's an older gal, and she just had her own handyman service company. It was her and another woman. And I saw an ad on Craigslist to paint houses. I'm like, I could do that. I would totally do that. And then I don't have to worry about, I was a terrible waitress, like the worst. So I thought I'd probably be better suited just being in a quiet environment, just painting walls. I can't screw that up. So I did that for about a year. And then ever since then, it's just been painting nonstop, full time.
That's super cool. And I love stories like this because it's inspirational for so many folks out there who dream of this. And I'm trying to take notes of a couple pieces of your story that can be sort of take home tips for people who are in that early phase of creating something and dreaming of doing that full time, but just not being able to take that next step. I would say one thing that I remember one of my friends in one of my old jobs says that I'll never forget is that his real work starts after his day job is finished at like 5 p.m. That's
Mm-hmm.
when like the real hard work starts.
Yeah.
And I remember way back then I decided like I'm going to start like really saving my energy for after my day job is over and like focus on the things that I'm building for myself. And I would
Yep.
even, go to the point of like I made the rule. I'm not drinking coffee when I'm working for someone else. I'm saving that for when I'm working on my own shit, just for my extra, just like the extra boost of energy, stuff like that. Like really just saving all the superpowers for building my own creations. And I
Yeah.
think a
Save
lot
the
of
good
people out
stuff for
there are
later.
exactly. And I think a lot of people are stuck in that zone of just really accepting their fate as a slave in a machine and
Yeah.
they don't have that ability yet to really dream outside of it. And that's why stories like yours are so important, because it helps these people just think bigger and dream bigger.
Yeah. And
And
it
speaking
is
of thinking
possible.
bigger, go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying it is possible. Wake up earlier. A lot of us humans are lazy. We want to sleep in. Oh, I can't wake up earlier. Yeah, you can. I wake up at 4 o'clock every day. I go to bed earlier and I wake up at 4. I watch Dr. Kiltz's 5 a.m. call almost every day. And I have that playing in the background while I'm drinking my coffee or whatever. And anything is possible. You can make time. I don't go out and drink. I don't party. I don't do anything. I have no life. I hang out with my dog at home and I work, but I enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work. I get to play all day and paint, and I make my own schedule. I don't have to take PTO days. I can take whatever time off I want. Um, it doesn't happen overnight, but if I if you're that miserable, you can make it happen. You just have to make sacrifices so you can have the things you want later.
And there's no excuse to not carve out some time somewhere. Like I'm not a morning person. I never have been. Maybe someday I will be. I want to get to that level. I feel like that's the true highest self, is when you're getting up early and seeing the sun rise and doing all those things. I definitely think that's the
Yes.
best way to be, but I have usually defaulted to night owl mode when I'm in grinding mode. So,
Mm-hmm.
so for
And
people that do that, go for it. If that works better for your schedule, that's what I did for years, and sometimes still do.
yeah.
Just like just make sure that your sleep is also a priority. Don't throw your sleep out the window, because you need to be fully mentally running it on all cylinders to be able to do this. Because if you're going to be taking that step into building your own business, you really need to be full steam ahead on it and like operating at your highest capacity.
Yeah.
And I think this could be a great segue, speaking of operating at your highest capacity physically and mentally, as I hinted at in the intro, how you are a fan of the carnivore diet. You just talked about how you listen to Dr. Kiltz every day. I had him on a couple weeks ago. That man is a gem. I love him so much. So you are definitely in this. And Dr. Chafee reposted your story. So you're like in this world right now. I would love to hear that side of your story, where you first heard about that. Maybe start with just your diet up until that point, what you normally did, because we all know what the art world's stigma is, the exact opposite of that type of diet. This is like we're all told that if you're eating meat, you're evil and you're unartistic and you're just a testosterone filled burly man. That's like kind of the stereotype, is like it's like a manly thing to do to eat meat.
It's
So
a manly diet. Yeah. Yeah.
so give me your full diet story and how that came to be.
So I got into the juicing craze. I'll back up. So, because I think this might have had something to do with the reason why I took these major left turns. So, um, I was on birth control for years, and I think that could have totally screwed up my hormones. And then on top of that, I was convinced when I was 23, living in LA by myself, to go get the Gardasil shot, the evil Shilly Gates Gardasil shot, which God only knows what's in that thing. And it's off the market now. People are suing them left and right. They don't even perform that anymore. So shortly thereafter, I went to a normal doctor checkup, OBGYN appointment, and they found cancerous cells all over my uterus. So I had to have immediate surgery, and they had to do this special procedure to carve out part of my uterus because of these cancerous cells that they found. And I swear it's from that shot. I know it is. I know it's from that. There's a lot of vaccine harm out there. So fast forward maybe 7 years, I'm juicing like crazy. I'm all into kombucha, juicing, and my skin starts to break out like a middle schooler. Never had acne in my life. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm juicing. I'm super healthy. I'm eating my vegetables. So I juice more. I turn into like a borderline raw vegan, like just eating raw vegetables, juicing nonstop. I won't touch meat. Occasionally I would maybe eat some fish or chicken, but nope. Skin got horrendous. And I got really self-conscious. I didn't want to go out in public. It was horrific. Like, who wants that all over your skin? It's terrible. And I was like in like a battle with myself because nothing was working. And all these things that I was taught that this should be the trick, and I'm saving animals' lives and I'm not hurting animals. So none of this I'm feeling terrible on this, and my skin is just getting worse and worse. So I just kind of thought, like, maybe it's from being on birth control for so long, and I'd eventually gotten off birth control and nothing changed. Nothing. And I'm like, okay, nothing is working. Like, I'm cursed. I am screwed for life. I'm going to have terrible skin. I don't know what it is. So, um, I was living in Ohio a few years ago, and I went down to Atlanta to visit a girlfriend. And I'm driving out of state, and I'm just going to go straight to her apartment. And I call her and tell her, hey, I'm outside at the gate. Can you let me in? And she said, okay, I just need to eat really fast. I'm like, you can eat in front of me. It's fine. Like, that's kind of weird. She's like a really close friend of mine. And she goes, okay, well, just give me a few minutes and I'll be down there and I'll let you in. And I'm like, what is she eating? This is getting really weird. And so she comes down and lets me in, and I'm walking in with my spinach salad from Whole Foods, and I'm like, what were you eating? Why could you not eat in front of me? Like, what is going on? Are you like eating bath salts, or what's the deal? And she said, I was just making some burger patties. And I'm like, okay, that is kind of weird, but what's the deal with the burger patties? And she said, well, I don't really want to get into it. It's just too much. And I'm like, no, you got to tell me now. Like, I am committed. I need to hear this. And she told me all about carnivore. And I don't think she was having any health issues or anything. She might've been doing it just for better health remedy. And then she points to my salad and she goes, and that salad is full of oxalates. I'm like, what the hell is an oxalate? Like, this is so foreign to me. And I am like the queen of health, so I don't know what you're talking about. And so then she was the one who introduced me to Dr. Rimke. I'm a big fan of Rimke. Love Rimke.
Amazing. I love her.
Yes. So I am a bit of an extremist. When I do something, I am like all in. So I did tons of research, scoured Dr. Rimke's page, YouTube, everything. I reached out to her and she actually responded. I'm like, oh my God, she's responding. This is amazing. I feel so just touched that she has the time to even respond to me. And I actually got on the Parasite protocol. Now that's a major left-hand turn, but that's a whole other thing. But so I went all in carnivore, and that was 4 years ago, and it has done wonders for my skin. I don't feel self-conscious anymore. My skin is almost back to normal. There are definitely some times where it can like flare up and I just feel like, okay, it might have been that ice cream I ate the other night or something, because I do cheat occasionally from time to time. But pretty much I am like 90% carnivore. I might have a French fry here and there, might have an ice cream here and there. But other than that, like, I haven't bought produce in years. Grocery shopping is a breeze. I just go to the store to buy butter and heavy whipping cream, and I order all of my meat online from White Oak Pastures, or I also like Force of Nature meats in Texas. And it's a game changer, complete game changer.
That's an amazing story. I'm so happy to have you share that. And there's so many pieces in there that I think will resonate with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Rimke, as you said, is just a fantastic human being. I had her on a podcast recently.
Yes, I watched
she's just incredible. Yeah, she is.
She is like a goddess.
She speaks so beautifully to, I mean, definitely just all women better than, like the Sean Bakers and the Chafies can, because she just understands you,
Yeah.
she's been through the true life of a woman, and she was a vegan. She did all the, the spiritual journey, and she's been through all these different rabbit holes herself. And so but she isn't just like a totally soft spoken, like, just sprinkling things. She will like come at you just the right hardness to make you change.
Yes. I love how blunt she is. She's real. She's real, and she's to the point. She's kind and caring, and but she's direct. Like, there's no fluff. It's, you can't eat that. Gluten is terrible. Don't eat it. Like, she's going to tell you how it is. And I appreciate that. I don't want anything sugar coated. Just give me facts. And because we've been lied to our whole lives on what we were supposed to eat. And now it's time to reverse all the damage we've done to ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing more and more people that are just tired of people beating around the bush, and they just want people to get to the point, which
Mm-hmm.
is why I like Dr. Rimka, I like Dr. Chafee, I love Bart K. He's
I
a
don't know.
controversial guy. I'm not sure if you want.
I
Do you
don't
have you
know
not heard of Bart
him.
K? Oh
No.
man, I'm gonna send you some videos. He
Okay.
is like on the spectrum of, soft to rip your face off, aggressive. He is completely on the aggressive side, and he just goes after
Okay.
people too. He will like
Okay.
do videos specifically on this is why this influencer is wrong about everything, and he goes through every single piece of their video and just
Is
rips
he
them apart.
is he carnivore?
Yeah. So he's
Okay.
100% carnivore, like insane, one of the smartest dudes you will ever find. Just insanely
Hmm.
smart. He's like a walking encyclopedia, science brain, remembers every single. He understands human biology probably better than any of the carnivore doctors that we just mentioned, and they've all had him on their shows because
Oh,
they know that
wow.
this guy's a genius.
I don't know
But
how I've
yeah,
missed this
highly recommend him.
guy.
I'll throw some of his videos in the show notes and I'll send you
Yes.
some. But
Yes, because when I'm
he's
painting,
a
I'm just listening to podcasts all day long.
Yeah, I don't even know if he has a podcast. He mainly just does YouTube, but I'll
Okay.
find him
I
some
can
good
do
ones
that
for
too.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and one more thing I wanted to touch on before we shift over to, the next topic I had in mind was the birth control side. I think that that
Mm-hmm.
is such a massively important thing to spread the message on that I haven't really gotten on the podcast yet, but I would love to because this is so important. And there are so many young girls out there that need to hear these stories from the women who've been through this and learned this lesson. So could you maybe speak on that a little bit, what that experience is like for you and how you came out the other side and learned from it, and what you would pass down to those younger girls now who are going to the doctor and hearing that they need to go on birth control for a sniffle?
Right, right. Or just for protection. And so you don't avoid pregnancy. And oh man, so I got on it when I was like at the end of high school, probably, and was on it for, I got off of it when I was 33. That, I'm really bad at math. I apologize. I was on it for probably 15 years. And no period, no cramps. Life is great. It's convenient, and you don't have to worry about anything. It was great. But I was talking to a man that I used to date, and he's like, "Why are you on that? That's so bad to be on that." He's from Argentina, and I find other countries do things differently, or they just don't do things at all. And he's like, "That's so bad for your health. Like, you should get off of that. It's not safe. It's not healthy." And I was like, I couldn't believe I've never heard that. And then I went down the rabbit hole. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have just completely just tore up my body with chemicals, fake hormones. And now I'm to the point, if I don't know what something is, I am not ingesting it. I'm not putting anything on my skin, down my throat, no medications, nothing. If I don't know what it is, I am not ingesting it in any way. No topical creams, nothing. And I mean, the amount of damage it does to your hormones. And I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the like facts of what it actually does. I'd be terrified to really know what all it does, but it messes you up, definitely. And it might have prevented unwanted pregnancies and clear skin and convenience factor. The one that I was on, you didn't even menstruate at all. So I hadn't bought tampons in years. So I got off the pill, and now I have a normal cycle and everything is fine. No crazy period cramps. And I attest that to carnivore completely. I think if you're doing what your body is intended to do, you're not going to suffer that much at all. So I would highly recommend do not touch birth control. If you're on it, get off of it cold turkey. Again, I'm not a doctor, so don't listen to me on that part, but I just stopped taking it completely. I had no weird side effects, no lash outs, nothing bizarre happened. I just immediately got my period like I would have normally. And now I'm just a normal human the way I was supposed to be.
Yeah, and you mentioned carnivore in there. How quickly after getting off birth control did you start carnivore? Was there like a period in between, or did you do those
There
close together?
was. No, I got off. So I'm 39, 36, 35, 34. I got off of birth control at 33, and then I went carnivore at 35. And I've been carnivore for 4 years now. So I had about a year and a half maybe of still eating, drinking my juices, all my kombucha, all that, gluten-free pasta and all the crap.
I had
But
that
then
one too. I had what I had was like the tomato puree pasta. I was like, oh, this is made of,
I haven't
more,
heard of
even
that.
this is even healthier. Yeah,
Or
I
like
think
the
it was when I was in
zucchini
New Zealand. I'm
pastas.
not even sure if it's in America. Yeah,
Oh
it's like
man.
these like, pureed vegetables version, and I was like, oh, that
Yes.
sounds healthier.
Yep.
It was
Like
a
in
time.
noodle form. Yeah. They're getting really creative and
Yeah.
really sneaky on how to present the vegetarian vegan package now, to the point where they want you to drink I think it's larva milk. They're making milk out of larva and eating crickets. There's certain code words in the ingredients list that they sugarcoat everything in the ingredients list, where I forget what it is, but something is actually cricket powder, but they call it something else. And it's
They
repulsive.
probably
And
also literally sugarcoat it because they just dump all this extra sugar to make it taste palatable, which is even
yeah,
more poison.
yeah. And another thing for me that I learned about that just got me completely repulsed from eating a raw fruit or vegetable is the parasites. The amount of parasites on produce. You could not pay me to eat a banana. You couldn't pay me to eat anything raw ever again. It's disgusting. I had lab work done from a naturopath in Atlanta, and she put we took a blood sample, and she put the slide up on the camera, and she's like, "Do you see all those little things swimming around?" She goes, "Those are all the parasites." I'm like, "Sorry, what?"
Oh my gosh.
And she said I had extremely high levels of chlorine in my blood from swimming in chlorinated pools my whole life. So then I went down that rabbit hole into the parasite world, and that'll I'm not going to go into detail about that, but would highly recommend it if anybody has eaten a raw fruit or vegetable in their life, because everybody has them.
That's wild. And that's one of the things I haven't even thought of. Like when going through the list of reasons why these fruits and vegetables are just scams in the first place. The defense chemicals, the fiber, the sugar, the oxalates, like the non-bioavailability, the fact that you're not getting any nutrients from it, so there's no actual benefit and you're getting all of those negatives. That to me is the message that I've been pushing. I haven't even really dove into the parasite side. That's
Oh,
terrifying.
Dr. Rimka knows all about that, because I reached out to her, and I talked to one of her coaches and told her coach all about the Gardasil shot, the birth control, everything. And she recommended that I do, it's by Cellcore, the company called Cellcore. It's a foundational protocol. It's like 6 months. And now this is where some carnivore docs will say, don't do that. It's garbage because it's herbs. I don't have a problem taking herbs to eliminate bugs out of me, though. And seeing what I have seen now, I would highly recommend that to anyone. Because we've all had fruits and vegetables our whole lives, and we're the only country that doesn't do any type of worming or parasite detox. A lot of European countries, they worm themselves once a year to eliminate what all could be festering inside them. So
Do
you'll
you know
have
how
to
long those stick around inside your bloodstream? I might have to go do this.
years.
Is it like years? You're kidding me.
They can be
That's
several feet.
fascinating.
They can be several feet long inside your body.
That's crazy. That's wild.
It is.
Yeah, that's
It's really it's wild. It's terrifying, and we all they're in all of us, especially in the United States, because we never do anything to eliminate them. So I feel better now on carnivore because I'm eating meat. There's no parasites in meat. Um, and I actually reached out to Dr. Chafee just the other day. I just messaged him, and I wasn't expecting a response. I mean, these people are all super busy. And I just said, hey, what are your thoughts on the whole myth about parasites in pork? I hear a lot of times, don't eat pork, it's loaded with parasites. I'm like, okay. I mean, I love bacon. I'm not going to stop eating bacon. And he said that typically the protocol that the meats have, like the meat inspection that they have to go through in the United States, is pretty tough and pretty rigorous. So you're not going to find parasites in the beef. And I mean, if you're buying some really nasty, low quality meat, I wouldn't do that. But if you know your farmer, you know where you're getting it from, then I'm going to trust it. So I'm still going to eat my bacon.
yeah, and I mean the thing that Chafee also brings up all the time is like compared to what? When you have to compare things together. Like when you're comparing the one that he mentioned is like a lot of people bring up, oh, doesn't meat have hormones in it? Isn't that bad? And then he compares that to a tiny block of soy versus like a giant ribeye steak. The minuscule piece of soy is going to have like 10,000 times the hormones in it. Pretty much
Mm-hmm.
every other plant has more hormones in it. That's just the fact that they give the animal some hormones to make it grow more doesn't make the meat less nutritious for you. It's
Right.
I would argue it's not ideal. I certainly, if I have the opportunity, I'm going to get, straight from the farmer, grass fed, like perfectly raised cows for sure. But as Ken Berry always says, that if you can't afford that stuff, the lower quality meat is going to be better than the highest quality fruit or vegetable. So just
Yes.
have what you can afford.
Yep. Completely. Buy what you can in the meat department. It doesn't matter if it's grass fed or corn raised. It's better than eating a fruit or vegetable. And most people I tell this to, they just think you're nuts. And I'm like, well, you're having a lot of health issues, or you're extremely overweight. And I got my parents on carnivore. They've both been carnivore for a year
Nice.
now. Yes.
That's tough to do. That's difficult. I've been working on mine forever, and I know most of
Well,
my friends in the carnivore world, like it's a low success rate with the boomers, unfortunately.
yeah, I knew the only way to get my dad, because my dad's the one that I've been concerned about, because he's 6'4", he was like 310, overweight, ex NFL guy, so he's a bigger guy naturally, but just has that like pregnant belly. And we all want him to stick around. There's grandkids in the family, and I'm just like, what can I do to get through to him? And I thought, I need to get my mom on it. If my mom does it and he sees her success, he'll do it. So my mom did it. She lost like 9 pounds in a week. And my mom she was not overweight at all. But she just felt great. She had no inflammation, no achy joints. And my dad saw her feeling so great. So he got on it, and he's down to 260 now. So he's lost a ton of weight and feels great. And he tells everybody about this diet.
Props to her for leading the way too, and for you leading her, and him being the last one in the family. The ladies
Yes,
really stepped up.
yes, yes. I don't think I'll get to my sisters, but anybody that you can maybe just make a dent in, or just like what I do, like with my girlfriends here in Florida, we have this group chat. It's called We're called the Carnivore Kitties. And I have one of the girls, she went hardcore carnivore. I had just met her. She doesn't know me at all. And I was telling her about the carnivore journey, and she was having some issues. And I said, you should try it. And so that day she switched. So now she's like 2 weeks into it. She feels great. And then my other girlfriend, she still wants to eat some fruits and veggies. I don't think she's not like totally convinced or totally into like, I think the extremism that carnivore is. It is extremely, it's this way and that's it.
Extreme in comparison to the modern diet. It used to be
Yeah.
normal.
Right. I told her just eat some more beef, add more beef to your diet. That's already better than, if you have the option to eat chicken or beef, go for the beef. Like just little things like that can make a huge difference.
And there are more and more people that are getting more and more willing to jump quickly and
Yeah.
open their minds more quickly. This is something I was just thinking about in the last couple of days is so I've been living in hostels and co-living places for the last couple of years where there's a lot of people passing through, a lot of people coming in the kitchen, a lot of community kitchens. So it's been a lot of fun for me to just every single day just cook up these piles of steaks and just observe all these people looking at me like I'm insane. And there's a lot of people ask questions and say, and some people will immediately just start from the high horse, like, oh my gosh, you're killing yourself. And other people will be like, is that all you eat? And there are a lot of it's a very high prevalence of vegans and plant-based people in general that are like the travelers, kind
Yep.
of like the artists,
Yes.
the floating around digital nomads and travelers and the artists are kind of all in that spiritual plant-based world. So I've
We're
had a
easy
lot of
targets.
conversation with these people over the last couple of years, and I can say with certainty that I'm sensing more and more people opening their minds faster and being more open to it. We got a lot of work to do for sure, but I think it really just is the fact that, well, one, I'm getting better at figuring out, what their health problems are quickly. I can usually sort of, just by having a nice conversation with them, just talk until you can figure out what it is. Because if someone's been on a vegan diet for more than a few years, they're for sure going to have some issues. Just recently, I talked to a girl who, after, a nice long, we were eating dinner together, having a glass of water on a roof and just talking about life. And she told me that she was having like really bad constipation. And this is like the exact type of thing that people are never going to talk about. They always
Right.
hide that. And
Right.
so, and that's like a textbook plant issue, is that this fiber in the plants is indigestible. So fiber is literally indigestible, people, if you didn't know that. Your body cannot digest it. It goes straight through the tube. It doesn't break down at all, and it just clogs up your whole system. So that's just one example, but it could be their skin. That a lot of vegans have really bad skin problems because they're not
Yep.
getting enough animal fat.
All the
And
sugar.
it's no joke that these people are just have a shorter temper and like get more angry because their brain is starving for fat. So that's a very real thing. They're either overweight or underweight. It's really hard for them to maintain a healthy weight because you can't build muscle without the bioavailable protein. So they either take the processed food route of just eating a bunch of processed crap and just blowing up like a balloon, or they go the raw vegan route and they just starve themselves. It's like a modified
Yeah.
starvation diet where they just are getting nothing. So they're like skeleton. So
Yep.
you just got to talk to those people. But I'm hopeful though. I'm really hearing more and more people like that girl I mentioned who are, you just need to have a conversation with them and figure out what the problem is. Because a lot of times they don't even think about that. Like you kind of
No,
have to
they
help
don't
point them
even
out. Like this
get
is not
it.
normal.
Right.
Mhm.
I
Because
just
they've
go
been
back
told by their
to these
community that they're
guys.
in that it's normal to be like that.
Yeah. I just think back to these guys. They were not eating salads. They were not eating fruit salads. They weren't drinking their meals in a smoothie. They weren't juicing berries. I mean, they killed bison, elk, whatever ruminant animals, and they ate it. That was it. That's how our ancestors ate. And we have gone so far from that. Like if I could just, what I would love to do is just get cows one day. That would be the dream. Find a ranch and do rancher life. But I mean,
Yeah,
buying anything in a
yeah.
package, we shouldn't be buying anything in a package. But my butter comes in a package, my heavy cream comes in a package, and my meat comes in a package. Other than that, I don't want it. No dry goods, nothing. Like our ancestors did not eat that way. And if they did forage berries, they ate them right then and there. Otherwise, they would go bad. They weren't eating pasta. I mean, the fruits and vegetables and the grains were for the peasants. Like in Europe, that's what the poor people ate. The rich people were eating meat, but the peasants were eating all the fruits and vegetables and pastas. And then they brought all that over
And
here.
before that, it was for the people who were starving out in the bush. Like if they
Mm-hmm.
weren't able to get meat, that's when they would, have some berries or tubers or something, which they would
Yep.
like ferment and cook the crap out of because they knew that it was a negative for them,
Yeah.
unlike people
Yep.
today. They knew that this was
Right.
a net negative and just a means of avoiding starvation, getting the few nutrients you could out of there and just accepting the damage it was going to cause you,
Right.
and then hoping for a better hunt the next day. And so this has never been a staple, or definitely not something that any it was ever healthy for anyone. It's always
No.
been used as a tool, like you said, for the peasants. Specifically, the grains were like a tool that the ruling class would use to keep the peasants from revolting and keep them
Yes.
docile.
Keep them
Is they would
dumb.
throw the bread in circuses, give free bread everywhere when inflation was getting really bad, or there's some you know problem brewing where or some uprising that was like starting for some reason. They would just throw a big party. Everyone eat a bunch of bread. Let's go.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they would all say,
And
"Hooray! We get to go watch the gladiator fights and eat a bunch of toast."
right.
And
But really,
they
that's
didn't know
even
what was going
worse
on.
because they're eating a bunch of sugar. They're going to have their sugar high and then they're going to crash and be starving in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, and then there's the Egyptians who, when I had Chafee on, we talked about the how the Egyptians were not healthy at all. You look at
Mhm.
their old statues, and all the guys have man boobs and their big bellies, and
Yep.
their teeth were terrible. They had like rotting teeth. So
Mm.
like it's easy to sometimes get caught in this idea that just the last like 50 years humans have gotten really unhealthy, but it's really been going
Yep.
on for the
A
entire
long time.
period of the agricultural revolution that started
Yeah, when
10,000 years ago when
agriculture
we
came
started eating
around.
plants more regularly.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, we've
It's
lost
a
our
really
way.
crazy rabbit hole, and it's just a fantastic example of just how humans are able to be so manipulated and how we just get tricked into these same traps over and over again throughout history. And
Mhm.
it's going to take a strong push from those who are willing to really put in the research and spread the word and be loud and utilize the tools we have at our disposal, like websites, social media, Instagram, podcasts, YouTube, wherever you can. Like it doesn't matter where you go. This is the perfect time to just blow the door down with content from every angle,
Yep.
because we also know that there's censorship at play where there's going to be, I mean, we haven't seen the final battle yet, I truly don't believe.
Oh,
And
I don't
so
think so
it's
either. I
funny.
don't think they think that the carnivores are that threatening yet.
It's still tiny, a tiny, tiny piece of, I don't even know what the percentage is, but it's minuscule. I mean, if you talk to 100 people on the street, like we're still at the point where pretty much all 100 are going to say you're fucking crazy.
Yep.
Um, it's going to get weirder. And I want to quickly drop a shill in here for listeners that I'm not sure if you've heard of this. This is, speaking of new things, it's this thing called Noster, which is like a decentralized social media protocol, which I would love for you to look into because it's full of
Okay.
artists and people just creating cool things. It's completely censorship resistant because there's no it's not a company. It's like a protocol of different servers all working together, so you can't be banned from it. And that's
Oh,
become like my new
Nostr.
main social media that I use. Yeah, I don't even,
Okay.
I pretty much just use Instagram and Twitter to just send people over to that because I think it's extremely important. And I'm
Right.
going to put a lot of work into try to get more carnivores on there because I think that this is
Okay.
the type of community that's for sure going to get targeted at some point, and
Mm.
we have a tool for that. We have a tool that cannot be censored where there's no banning. You cannot be banned. It's impossible.
Wow. Wow.
But that's a whole different tangent. I'll send you a video on that because I
Yes.
think it'd be perfect for what you're doing,
Yeah.
and it's a perfect time to get into it now as an artist because we're just past the phase where it's just a bunch of nerdy technical Bitcoiners and free speech maximalists and libertarians, and it's
Hmm.
starting to expand out. People are migrating over from TikTok because they know that they're probably going to get banned and censored, and people are just finding it right now, and it's very early,
Okay.
so it's a
Okay.
good time to
I'm gonna
jump
get
in.
in on it. I'm gonna check it
Yes,
out.
yes. So I would love to dive in a little bit deeper. We didn't really talk about right when you started carnivore. What did you experience as the changes physically and mentally for yourself as you went through that process of just cutting the plants out and going to meat only?
Um, well, the biggest thing is that it just simplified my life. Not having to worry about cutting a bunch of vegetables. Like, I have so much more time in my day to do things that I want to do rather than make homemade spaghetti sauce, even though I love you, Grandma, and I love our family recipe, but it takes forever and it's full of nightshades. So, my family's Italian and German, so we're pasta and potato salad. But not making any of those things, I just have more time in my life to do other things. And I feel like I have more energy. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. Like, I'm not thinking about food all day long. Where before I was like a grazing cow, just constantly eating nuts. I mean, the amount of money I would spend at the grocery store for organic macadamia nuts, organic almonds, the organic coconut milk, and I mean, it's all garbage. Like, I don't think there is really such a thing as an organic vegetable. They're all sprayed. The soil is crap. The soil is it's growing in tainted soil. So just because they're not spraying it, it's like it's next to the farm that does spray. They have their sprayed crops and then they have their non-sprayed crops. If you think that that's not going to just blow over with the wind, you're nuts. And it's all in the soil. So it's all tainted in my opinion. But when I would buy the fruit and vegetables, I would buy everything organic. I was making smoothies, the juices, hundreds of dollars per month. So just buying meat and butter and heavy cream, my life is so much cheaper. It's cheaper, it's simpler. I feel more clear-headed. I'm just not hungry. Like, if I'm hungry in the morning, I'll eat something. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat, but I'll eat once or twice a day. That's it.
Absolutely same. For me, I've sort of bounced between one meal a day and two meals a day, just depending on usually depending on like the quality of steak I have available. If I have like really
Mhm.
good steak that I can eat, I'm going to just feast on one meal a day and just have a huge dinner. If it's
Mhm.
not the best steak, I'll split it up. I'll have some bacon and eggs in the morning and some meat at night usually. Um, but you really just your body's hunger cues completely change to the point where, like you said, you're just not controlled by food anymore. You're completely free from it.
No, and I think
Because I
it's
was
the
definitely in the same
sugar.
boat. I used to start every single morning, like wake up, like excited to eat breakfast, like have my bowl of cereal with freaking oat milk. Ugh, I totally fell for that crap and went to work, was just like bouncing off the walls for lunch, would have like a sandwich, which is bread, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and a teeny little bit of meat and
Right.
a bunch of like veggie chips because I thought the veggie
Yes.
chips were the hottest thing ever. I thought they were so good for you. So I had those too.
Healthy.
Of course, I'm hungry again a couple hours later, ready to go home and eat again. It's like your entire day is just controlled by like, when am I going to get to put food in my mouth?
Right.
um,
Constantly
and it's just
eating.
always it takes away your ability to focus in the moment and actually live life. And
Mhm.
this is why it's so hilarious to me how people just say like, oh, that's too restrictive, or it's not sustainable. That's just how you know that these people have never actually tried it, because
Yeah.
this is the
They're a
most freeing
slave
thing ever. It's the
to
most unrestricting thing you can possibly do.
Yeah, they're a slave to the current eating style because all you think about is food. That's not normal to always think about food unless you're in a tribal civilization and the buffalo herd is gone. You might be thinking about food, but otherwise it's the sugar. I think it's the constant influx of sugar when you're on a sugar high all day long, which is not normal at all. So I'll take the restrictive diet. I'll take the weird looks, um, but I know I'm probably healthier than most people.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't understand either is you mentioned how it's just a constant sugar high. A lot of people don't even understand that every single plant is a carbohydrate that breaks down into sugar. It
Yep.
doesn't matter if it's a piece of candy or a piece of celery. Those all just break straight down into glucose and
Right.
fructose.
Right.
It's just
It's all the
a mix of
same.
sugars. Mhm.
Yeah. That's what
And
when
so,
I
like every single thing, no matter how organic or beautifully packaged, or if it's at the farmer's market, it doesn't matter. Your body
Right.
doesn't care. That's all like marketing fluff that you're
Mhm.
surrounded with.
Yep.
And people just need to think like at a biological level, what happens after this thing passes my mouth?
Right.
Is it?
Right.
And then you start to think like, once you understand that every single one of those plants just turns into sugar, and sugar glycates your cells, it's absolutely damaging your body. It causes diabetes, blood. I mean, when your blood sugar goes up, it just wreaks havoc across your whole body, and your body
Feeds
goes through this.
cancer.
Yeah, cancer, it comes from glucose. And
Mhm.
like you were talking about your skin problems,
Mhm.
and this
Parasites
is another
love
episode I
sugar.
did with Christina Matthewson. I'm not sure if that name rings a bell for you, but
Mm-mm.
she is really great. She talks about how all of these different, things we call autoimmune diseases are really just your body needing to outsource detoxification outside of the liver, because we're taking in so many plant toxins all the time
Mhm.
that the liver is tapped out, and so it has no choice but to push things out to other parts of your body to use as a detox pathway. And
Wow.
one of the most popular ones is the skin. I say popular, I guess it's more common is a better
Yep.
word. So when your skin breaks out, that's probably just because you're eating too many plants
For
or oils.
sure.
Seed oils are a huge one, as we know.
Yes.
And another one, you mentioned this earlier, periods for women.
Mhm.
That's like a bonus detox pathway that women have. And she makes the case for why this is why so many women are having horrendous painful periods, is because there's so much poison being flushed out that your body is just suffering from it,
Yeah, you're
and it's all
feeling it
just
all.
detoxing from the toxins that we're taking in.
Mhm.
So all these issues that people have, whether it's the skin problems, as you mentioned, digestive problems, mental problems is a huge one. People that are
The
having
depression,
anxiety or
anxiety.
ADHD or depression,
Yeah.
dementia, Alzheimer's, all of these
Mhm.
brain problems are really just downstream effects. I say all, like a huge majority, far
Mhm.
more than we're understanding right now, is just downstream effects from sugar and plant toxins just fogging the whole thing up, because these plants in nature have evolved to fuck everything that's trying to eat them, and
Right, kill
just
'em.
cause all these problems. They've spent millions of years evolving in this way to really just to make things literally go crazy, and they're neurotoxins. Like
Mhm.
and this is why all these humans are having these neurological effects, is because they're eating the plants. And
Right.
so
Right.
time after time, people are just removing the plants, adopting the carnivore diet. And perfect example of this one, I keep thinking of just people I've interviewed recently, is Brett Lloyd. Not sure if you've heard of him, but he
Mm-mm.
had just a horrendous multi-decade stretch of just depression, anxiety, psychosis. he was like hearing voices in his head. He couldn't
Oh,
live. He was so bogged down. And he heard from Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson talking about the carnivore diet. He respected them a lot. So he just gave it a try and gone.
I,
Depression gone in a matter of
oh my
days
God.
or weeks. Can't remember the exact time, but like practically instantly, the just this lifelong anxiety and depression that was debilitating for his whole life just disappeared. And this is why it's so important to get this message out to people, because mental health is becoming such a massive problem. And
Yeah.
even for people like myself, who was never uh, really like suffering compared to these other people, I never had like awful debilitating anxiety or depression. But like you said, as soon as I removed the plants and went carnivore, I noticed a significant boost in my energy and my motivation and just my clarity and focus.
Right.
All of
Right. How
these
long have
mental
you
things
been
that
carnivore?
you'd never. So I started last September
Okay.
2023. So I
Okay.
haven't even been in a full year yet, and I'm not 100% perfect either. Like you said, I'd probably hover, between 90% and 100 depending on the month. But
Hmm.
definitely always try to be as close to 100 as I can. And my goodness, was it a huge difference mentally? That was probably the biggest shocker for me, because like everyone else, I've been taught that your mental health is genetic. It has nothing to do with the food you eat.
Everything genetic.
um, Exercising is good for you, but the food doesn't matter. Like calories in, calories out. So that was a huge difference. And I'd love to hear your story on that specifically, because this is one of the ideas I had originally bringing you on, is for artists. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about people that want to have the most highly functioning brain possible, full of creativity and energy and focus and clarity, so you can create these beautiful things for the world. What would be your message to those people, and maybe using your own story as some coloring there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the whole vegan, don't eat animals, they get you on the emotional aspect. No one wants to see an animal die. No one likes that. No one, the factory farming, all of that is horrendous. And I think that's what got me also on the whole I don't want to eat an animal. And I mean, I used to share videos like filming trucks go by with pigs and like, I can't believe people eat these. Like, this is so terrible. And I mean, factory farming is horrible, but it's the circle of life. We are carnivores. We weren't made to eat plants. It's in our DNA. And like how Dr. Kiltz explains it, it just makes sense. So I think I think the arts and people in the arts can easily get swayed into the trendy things in society of we need to be more earthy and organic and eco-friendly and um but it's reverse world. We're in like upside down world. Like anything that they're saying to do, you should be looking at the opposite. There's a reason why they're pushing this agenda. And artists are communicators. We have our own way of speaking to the world and we can have influence over people. So if a ton of artists are drinking their coconut milk, eating their almonds and preaching about not killing an animal, that's a great they're easily coerced into what's popular, I think. So to go against the grain is, I mean, I don't openly just come out and say I'm carnivore or anything, but I don't really work with other people. My work is pretty isolating, but whenever I'm at work working, like I don't eat when I'm working because I don't need to. I have so much energy stored up. I have all my fuel tanks are full from whatever I ate the night before. And people will offer to buy you lunch if they see you outside working on a mural. And I'm like, no, I can't eat while I work. And but you can bet after I'm done working for the day, I'm going home and I'm eating a steak or I'm eating multiple burger patties. And but I think it's with artists, especially because we're sensitive people, we're maybe a little more sensitive than most. The whole vegan push, we're easy targets. I think we are such an easy market for them to, whether it's music industry, acting, um, doing painting and fine art. But I feel like you see a lot of celebrities pushing the vegan show, a lot of musicians. It's very trendy in their world. But I do feel like there is starting to be a change. I do feel like it's only a matter of time. The vegan show is going to run out. People are going to catch wind of it, and it's just a matter of time. I mean, when they're showing Nicole Kidman on TV eating a cricket, like, I'm sorry, no. Like, who's going to do that? Like, you can't make that look cool. It does not look cool. It does not look delicious. It's never, you're an idiot if you think that looks delicious just because a celebrity is doing that. And shame on her for doing that. Like, because celebrities have so much pull over the youth, especially. Like, you're not in your hotel room eating crickets. You're eating a steak, I guarantee you. And I think a lot of these people are probably somewhat two-faced, and they're getting paid off to sell their stupid message. So I think
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up because I really think that there's a distrust in celebrities kind of alongside a distrust in authority. I'm
oh
seeing
yeah.
more and more people starting to think like, do I really want to base my worldview off of this person made of plastic? That's just,
No, I mean,
you
I
know,
think the celebrity whole facade is going away. The idolatry of
yeah,
celebrities and musicians, like, they're showing who they are more and more. Like, a lot of them are singing about satanic crap. Rappers a lot of times sing about horrendous things with women, and it's like, I mean, when I was younger, it was the hip hop era, Ludacris, and just so many artists singing about really horrible things. It's like, you guys are selling your soul out, like, big time. You're selling out, and you're selling it to the dark place. So I don't want nothing to do with that. And I just feel like there's more being brought to light with all of this. And I just don't think people are going to fall for it anymore. And now it's all the Ozempic stuff. All these celebrities are taking Ozempic, and it's obvious. Like, they look terrible. They look ill. They don't look human at all. Between that, plastic surgery, I just feel like it's going to slowly become a thing of the past. Botox, don't do it. Like, God, why? Why would you do that to yourself? You don't even know what it is. Why are you putting something, injecting into your skin, and you don't even know what it is? Yeah.
yeah. And this is unfortunately global. This is going
Yeah.
on everywhere. I'm living in Colombia right now, as I told you. It is hard to find a woman who doesn't have breast implants here. I'm
Yep.
not kidding.
I believe it.
It's so prevalent in this culture, and a lot of people think of just America as being that, like the
Hmm.
hub of the fakeness, but it's expanded outward, and
Yeah.
so we've got a lot of work to do to just really help people realize that they need to stop looking outward for validation and look more inward. And that
Hmm.
starts with healing yourself and healing people's diets. Like, because I believe that the diet is a huge piece of, as we talked about, the mental side. And you're not going to have a healthy view of yourself or confidence if you're not healthy mentally. That's is
Yeah.
never going to
You're
work.
poisoned. Your
So
brain is
yeah,
poisoned by plants and seed oils. You're not going to think clearly, and you're going to look at these celebrities, and I want to look like her, so I should get this done and that done. Like, that's that's a deep-rooted insecurity in yourself. If you need to go outside of yourself to find that confidence and security, then you got to figure out what's going on the inside. And having a clear mind is, I would say, step one is get rid of the processed food. Get rid of it. You in it I think a lot of people might think like that just sounds ridiculous. I have depression, you don't get it. I have debilitating anxiety, you don't get it. You don't, this runs in the family. Like, you might come from a family who's eating processed food, and what was your mother eating when she was pregnant with you? That could also be something. And like, doing that foundational protocol that Dr. Rimka told me about to clear out everything that has been built up in your system, the toxic overload in our systems, we have no idea what is just lurking on the inside, wreaking havoc on us too.
Yeah, and regarding that just constantly repeated mantra of like, oh, it runs in my family, it's genetic, there's nothing I can do about it. I always refer to the quote, I forget who it came from, but genetics load the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. And
Oh,
I
that's a
think
good
this
one.
really this frames it very well because
Mm-hmm.
genetics are a factor, but I believe it's a tiny factor. It's a much
Mm-hmm.
smaller factor than most people think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that go their entire lives thinking that their genetics are their track and there's nothing they can do about it, and they're just always hopeless. And they
Right.
don't even try to make themselves better because they think that they're just stuck there, or they have, their cancer runs in the family, or if obesity runs in the family, they just think that that's their lot in life. And the fucking authorities are telling them this over and over. They're
Oh
really
yeah, the
pushing this in. Like the
doctors.
doctor,
Yeah.
yeah, they're saying that it's genetic, and even obesity. Like I think it was my episode with Matthew Leshak. He wrote a book sort of talking about the how government, and the big food companies all came together to really brainwash everyone. This just vile human being, Dr. Fatima Stanford, I think her name was, goes on to these news stations and it literally is saying like, we made this brilliant discovery that obesity is genetic. It's there's
Mm.
nothing you can do about it. And she literally just comes out and says that on like 60 Minutes interview.
Right.
And
Well, and it gives people an
these
easy
are the people,
out
and she's
too.
on the board of, she's on some like major health board in the government, and literally just has no idea what's going on or does, and is, maliciously tricking people. But um, it's wild because this is just so permeated in society that people really believe it now.
When it gives you an easy out, if you're told that it's genetic, then it's, well, I'm going to continue to eat my donuts because it's not going to change anyway. So, which that's, you're killing people. Like, I feel like the doctors are inadvertently giving people a death sentence, but a lot of these doctors are not trained in nutrition. They don't know about this. They're going to tell you to eat your fruits and vegetables. I mean, the food in hospitals is horrendous. They still serve Jello. Like, so I feel bad for the medical community because they've been led down the whole Rockefeller road. Get your white lab coat and get your cushy paycheck and you're saving lives. But it's like you're not thinking for yourself. Like, thank God for like Dr. Chafee and Dr. Rimka and these doctors who have gone against the grain. Like, something must have clicked with them in medical school or in their practice that no, this doesn't make sense. This isn't right. And that's the other thing, is just, you just have to think, like, is this really healthy? Like, it can't be healthy. It's sweet and sugary. It cannot be healthy even if it's made with almond flour. That's bullshit. And I think that's what we've lost, is just thinking for ourselves. Like, just because someone is telling us something doesn't mean we should do it. Like, go do your research before you put anything in your mouth or on your skin. Research it. If you don't know what the ingredients are, don't use it. Like, and I think also the skincare for females, all the feminine products and everything. I mean, we are just like dousing ourselves in chemicals. Um, the aluminum in deodorant and everything we put on our scalp that goes straight into your brain. I mean, anything that we put on our skin, sunscreen. Hello, sunscreen causes cancer. Yeah, there's so many rabbit holes.
Yeah, and I think that, as you mentioned, that the reason people just trust these things that they're told is that I think it really just comes down to a complete disconnect and underestimation of just how evil this bureaucratic class at the top
Mhm.
is, who's pulling all the strings of the big food, big pharma, big government. And these people truly only care about money and power. They don't give a shit about you. You are like
Mhm.
cattle to them. You're just a
Yeah.
tool to get them more money. And when we really look at that trinity of the big pharma who makes money on the back end from sick people, big food, who's making the addictive food that keeps people addicted, gets them sick, pushes them over to big pharma. So they're
Yep.
buddies. And then the government comes in, and the government has the unlimited money printer, and all there is full of humans that can be corrupted and bought out by, those two previously mentioned industries, which is why they're heavily lobbied by big pharma and big food to just do their bidding.
Yep. It's
And
a
they even have
well-oiled
additional
machine.
incentives on top of that to hide the inflation they're creating. And this is
Mhm.
sort of where like my financial nerdiness comes in, because the government also has its own native incentive to want people to eat crap, because it's easier to hide the inflation they're creating from all the money printing by just
Mhm.
making all food just like a processed assembly line, because they
Yeah,
can
and it
like
makes
manipulate those
society
prices
dumb.
much easier.
It makes us
Hmm.
very
And it keeps people weak, just like you said. That keeps the
yes,
peasants weak and docile so they don't revolt.
exactly. Keep them dumb, don't make them ask questions. We'll tell them that it's healthy. Throw the organic label on it, raise the prices. We're going to make more money off of these dumb minions, and they're still being poisoned, but they don't even know. It's like and for people who I have to try and like stay really compassionate at times, because sometimes you just want to shake people like, how do you not see this? How do you think that eating sugar or these just eating an organic berry is any different than the berry next to it because it has a sticker on it? Like, did you see where it was grown? If you don't know where these farms are, you shouldn't be eating this stuff. Like, and that's why I always fall back to the meat. Like, you get everything you need from the meat, all your vitamins and minerals from beef. Like, why am I going to eat a million things when I could just have one steak and I have everything I need right there? Steak, water, butter, I'm good. And salt. And salt.
Yeah, and you sort of hinted at it there. People have this fluffy view because they're sold that organic means it's like, beautifully raised in this, perfect place. But all the regulators that actually are supposed to enforce these things are part of that cabal at the top, who can just easily be bought out.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like they had this
this is
in their master
unfortunately an
plan.
issue in the meat industry as well. We have to be real about that. Like, we also need to look at the meat industry, because they are not regulating these like horrible factory farms, as you said. So
Right.
it affects all sides of this. That is something we do need to be honest about. But I mean, all the plants that are just covered in glyphosate, and I think that I need to bring on a guest that's like more of an expert in this, but I'm pretty sure it can be labeled organic and still be sprayed with organic chemicals, or like
Yeah.
chemical herbicides that are just like deemed organic by
Yeah.
whatever metric, like who knows what that even means.
Right. Who's putting the
And
sticker on this? Like what corporation? And I always look to see certified organic by like Tilth or by Oregon, blah blah blah. I'm like, well, who are these companies? Is this just all make believe? Like, is anyone even checking this stuff? What deems it organic? Just not as much pesticide or no pesticide, and it's not growing within like a 100-mile radius of any pesticided farms. Like, is it just growing in a bubble somewhere that's completely untouched and the soil is pristine? But I still wouldn't eat it because it's a vegetable.
yeah, and this is where Anthony Chafee comes in with his video I'm sure you've seen, is the plants are trying to kill you presentation,
Yes.
which breaks
Yes.
down that it doesn't matter if you completely forget about all of those herbicides and pesticides. The plants themselves make far more harmful chemicals
Carcinogens.
themselves to defend
Yeah, I
themselves from idiots like you trying to eat it.
yeah, you could either smoke a cigarette or eat some broccoli. What do you want to do? It's the same thing, essentially. And I
Yeah.
think that's also
And
why
and
we
the
see
marketing, of course, understands this, so they need to do like the "no you" argument and say, "Oh, it's the eggs that are as bad as smoking cigarettes, and it's the cholesterol is bad, and the
right.
saturated fat is going to kill you." And they literally just they've just put so much money into just placing the exact opposite of reality on TV, and just to trick people,
Mhm.
because most people don't do the research. So it's
Right.
worked for so many of them. And so we have to
Yeah.
really just unlearn this and help other people just connect the dots of common sense, because like you said, I mean, this just makes sense if you just break it down piece by piece. And I've been doing this with vegans that I've met in person. And as I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned earlier, I'm very optimistic. There's more and more of them who are actually open to this, because people now who have been vegan, well, in 2024, most people that are vegan have been doing it for a while, because not a lot of new people are doing it. At least
Yeah.
not the ones I'm meeting. I'm sure it's the trend has to be coming down. But these people have accumulated enough problems to where they're getting closer to that threshold of where they're willing to look at other options and
Mm-hmm.
consider that they were wrong. And you just have to figure out where the soft point is. And like you said, if it's, more of the spiritual side, or like they care for the animals, maybe tell them that veganism kills way more wildlife. It clear
Right.
cuts entire, ecosystems, destroys all the bunnies, the deer, the rodents, the
Yeah, the
insects that,
food for
keep
other
the whole world running.
animals. Yeah.
hmm So
Yep.
it's so much more damaging. I eat about 2 cows a year, and you
Mm-hmm.
probably have one.
Yep.
Um, it's this is like the ultimate diet if you care about animals, and that's just one example. Like, it doesn't matter which angle you look at in terms of veganism versus carnivore is better in every way. It's better for your health, it's better for the environment, it's better for ethical reasons for the animals. You just have to help people unravel those misconceptions wherever they are,
Yeah.
or wherever they have the most emotional buildup,
Right.
because
I
that's
feel like
always
a
what it is.
lot of
There's
it,
some emotional reason.
yeah, I think it's the animals, which again, no one wants to see an animal get harmed, but I I listened to your podcast with Dr. Rimka, and her comment about the lion, like lions eating the gazelle. It's just they're not going to go eat berries. That's what they eat. And wolves eat meat. Like that's just what they eat. Eagles can eat rodents and we don't feel bad. It's just that's just the circle of life. And we've gotten completely away from that. And I think we just have to be okay with just knowing that this is what we're meant to eat. This is what our ancestors ate. They were thriving. They were doing great before Europeans came over and brought over a bunch of diseases and forced them into farming. The Indians were forced into agriculture. I just read this amazing book, Empire of the Summer Moon, about the Comanche tribe, how when they were forced into reservation life, they were forced to farm, and they hated it. They resented it. They did not want anything to do with it. They just wanted to go hunt their bison, and the men go off and kill the bison, and then the women are cleaning it, cleaning the hides. So I could not imagine being forced into foreign territory to go live, and then tell me that I have to eat something different that I've never had before in my life. And in the book, they talked about how they got really sick from eating the vegetables and the fruit. They were eating like green watermelons and they were getting horrendously sick. And it was just, they didn't have a choice because now they were outnumbered by all the Europeans. So it's fascinating how far we've come in such a short amount of time. But I think it's just, for me, it's always like if I'm talking to someone who might be heavily plant-based, if there's an open segue to make a gentle comment, because that's the other thing, you have to be gentle with this stuff. It's very personal to people. Their food is very personal. And I go back to, I eat how our ancestors ate. It just makes sense to me that way. And I don't talk about the killing of the animals or anything. It's just they weren't eating all day long. They didn't have access um, to blenders to make smoothies, and they hunted and killed their food. And I think that's just how we were intended to eat.
And that's so important, bringing back that story that Dr. Rimka shared, that humans need to just wipe the slate clean
Mm-hmm.
of the things they've been told and understand that we are a part of nature. We are not this,
Mm-hmm.
separate entity. when we see a lion chasing a gazelle, like you said, no one feels bad about that. We don't want to go chase in and like save the gazelle. Like, this is how nature works, and we get it. But a lot of people, then there's a disconnect when we think about that. That's what we should be doing too. We should be eating the food that we're meant to eat. It makes us healthy. That's what all living things are supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a really important thing for people to get. And I just got a notification. This is actually a new one that it looks like the storage on your computer ran out.
I know. I'm seeing this too.
So I don't even know if this is being recorded. If not, then I'll just make a separate. Maybe it'll record on mine. We'll see. But this has been such an awesome conversation. I think it would be a good time to wrap it up anyway. So why don't we finish this up, Erica, with just a message to all the artists out there. This was sort of the original reason that we did this, because we want to get to the artists out there, the big brain, the people who want to create and use their mentality to create beautiful things and creative things. And we both really think that the carnivore diet could be a great tool for them that they're missing, that so many are missing. If we were to continue to push this message out, we would see more beautiful art thriving than ever. We'd see a new renaissance. So could you just share a message to those people out there who are perhaps curious about this diet, but they're in that art community, they're eating the salads and the smoothies, and they're part of that scene, but they want to be their best selves and create the best art and live the best life. So what would you say to those people?
Well, I would say that naturally artists are renegades. We're unique. We do things that people don't normally do. So if we're being led to do what seems to be the societal norm, you should question that. Like, it takes a lot to go against the grain, get out of the 9-to-5 and go be an artist. To say that you live off of your art, people probably think, oh, she's just barely hanging on. Like, no, I'm actually doing great. And I don't need your sympathy either. Like, I feel sorry for you that you're in the 9-to-5 job that you probably hate. And I think being an artist, we have a voice. We are communicators. We're here to communicate through our own way, through our art. And I think us especially, we need to use our voice in a positive way and look at things through a different lens, question things. We should be questioning everything. We usually probably weren't the ones who wanted to be in school and pay attention. We wanted to be out doing other things. So if society is telling you, hey, you should go eat bugs, you don't want to eat a bug. Don't eat a bug. Go get the steak. You're gonna be much more clear-minded. You're gonna save some money by not going to the grocery store all the time buying your smoothie ingredients. And smoothies taste great. I love smoothies, but I know the damage it does on my body too. And for me, it's just not worth it. So I think we need to stay true to ourselves and that renegade rebel spirit and question everything and do your research.
Absolutely. And we reference a lot of other, great people that we both love in here. Dr. Stephanie Rimka, Robert Kilt, Anthony Chafee. I've had all three of those on the podcast. I'm going to put those in the show notes. And in terms of you, where can people find your beautiful artwork and help support your business?
I have a website, www.ericaarndts.com. You probably won't be able to figure out how to spell that, so you'll have to just look up the name in the show notes. And I do want to make one little shout out to my favorite and only skincare that I use, my buddy Charles over at Pharaoh. He makes lard for your skin. It's from leaf lard, which is, I believe, the fat around the kidney of a pig. And it is the most heavenly thing you can ever put on your skin. I cannot recommend it more. Pharaoh. Go check it out. Best stuff ever.
And that's spelled Farrow, right? I've seen some other very trustworthy.
You should have him on your show.
Oh, I should. I will. Yeah, that's a good
It's
idea. I
amazing.
will.
Yes, you should. Yeah, I believe he was a pig farmer for a while too. Um, and I found him on Dr. Kiltz's show.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Yes, because
Yep,
skincare is,
yep,
as you
yep.
mentioned, oh my goodness, talk about just an industry just full of poison and garbage. That's something we need to definitely dig
Hmm.
into. So appreciate the recommendation. I'll
Yep,
reach out and make it happen.
yep. No problem.
Cool,
Cool.
cool. Erica Arndts, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for coming by. And I'm
Yes.
looking forward to keeping in touch and seeing more of your beautiful art on my Instagram feed.
Thank you, Ben. Looking forward to seeing more of your shows and enjoy Colombia and all the good meat.
Will do.